Greetings. Here's our last chapter it's called Application Monitoring. We'll be using Jagger, we'll be using Prometheus, we'll be using um, Kibana, a number of tools here in order to monitor these applications. There's some description here. Java is a tracing tool and Prometheus is a monitoring and alerting tool. So we'll create a new project here called, of all things, User 3 Monitoring. Go down to our projects, create project, user 3 monitor. Okay, and we're given a service catalog here. And we'll deploy Jagger. And we're going to deploy that as a YAML code block. At the top of OpenShift, there is an ability to add something just with a plus sign. It'll actually specify that it's going into user 3 monitoring, so we don't have to be in a workspace, or I should say in a project or namespace for that to work. And the name will be here, and it knows what to deploy because it is an API kind of Jagger. Okay, API version, API kind. So as simple as that. Paste that, create that topology, and there it is. That those simple 4 lines of text is getting a fairly complex environment running Jagger. And then we're going to take a look at it by opening the Jagger UI. I can do it with this link, but why not use that link? We'll log in. Click harder. Okay. Okay. There's not a service here yet. We will start something for Jagger to monitor, and that'll help. So we're going to trace Quarkus application, the inventory application, by adding some extensions, the SmallRye Open Tracing project, and do that. And maybe it'll come back with the green check mark if it works. Excellent. Don't need to open that. So it's up and going. There's more extensions for Quarkus here, but now we're going to check our deployment, make sure that we're monitoring these services on these ports. To the deployment config, deployment, right here. Yeah, here's our memory collector. I got 4 lines here, 14268. Okay, that looks good. So this is the port we'll configure to trace. So we're going to put this configuration information into application properties in the inventory workspace. Okay. Let's close the debugger. Open the browser. Inventory. Application properties. I just put that at the bottom. There's some wide lines there. And we'll redeploy this to OpenShift with the patch or the configuration for the tracing. We want to make sure that's all done. We can see that in the inventory topology. There's a build going on. The old pod's still there. Just rebuilding the code with the extension. So let's watch it. So you can see it just committed the image container format, and now it's pushing it. And that build is done. Looks like the deployment's all done as well. Okay, so there's our inventory. Now we'll exercise the application with the 600 seconds or 10 minutes. Well, that's what it'll look like when it does it. That's a single instance, but you can see what we did is we curled the service there to get that sole inventory. So I just called it 10 times. So let's take a look at the inventory in Jagger. Now I found you have to refresh here. Then we'll have the inventory source, and we can find traces. Okay, so here are some of the run traces. There's 1, 2, 3, more than 10, but I can click on one of these traces. There's one that took a while. That's a get all. Okay, they're all get alls. And click on this. You can see tags and processes. So what we see here is that was 8.9 milliseconds from start to finish. And that's the JAX RS. Here's the call. And this does a nice job at tracing. If you have more complicated calls that have a number of subcalls, they'll all be outlined below. So you can see, just what's happening in different parts of the response to the request. And this explains kind of the stack when we get Prometheus and Grafana involved. So we'll do that. We're going to add the container image here for Prometheus. Prometheus app, Prometheus. I think I want this in monitoring. Yeah, click on add. Container image. Here's our image. Application. Create an application called Prometheus app. And the name is Prometheus. And it's a deployment. So let's create that. While we're installing Prometheus, we can move ahead and, well, I guess we're going to go ahead and take a look at Prometheus first. There it is. It's working. And now deploy Grafana, dashboard tool, Grafana app Grafana. And we're going to use the same method here. Add an image. Okay. Create an application called Grafana app. Grafana, and create that. That shouldn't take long. Then, once it clicks, we'll open Grafana's UI and log in as admin right there. Very beautiful. Logged in. And I'm going to skip generating a new password. Now, I'm going to tell it I want to use Prometheus as the data source. Grafana will render all kinds of different data sources. Okay, and we're going to give it a particular URL to monitor. We'll monitor Prometheus at 9090. I don't want to get lost in all these tools. Let me just close some of these tabs. We'll save and test that. We don't need any authentication to it. That's working. And then we're going to use some metrics. We'll apply those small right extensions to the inventory application. Excellent. And here's a description of what we're performing. We're going to perform all checks with the get all and time the get all responses. Perform checks available. so we can see how many times get availability is called and how long it takes to do those checks. Now, we're going to modify our source code, but this is the active ingredient in the source code, right? We got the get decorator there. But what we will do, yeah, sorry, let me explain that properly. The active ingredients are right here. And what we're doing is inserting at counted and at timed for both. So the way we do this is we go to inventory resource Java and modify it there, inventory resource Java. And here's our endpoints. So these are the, I'm going to put it in here. So we need to replace, basically what we're doing is getting rid of this, the get all. Get rid of that. That, because we replaced them with the methods prefixed with these counted and timed. Okay, and that should work for us. Oh yeah, better import the modules here that comprise the allow us to access those timers. Okay. Now redeploy this to OpenShift. We're going to inventory. That was pretty fast. Looks like a build already happened. Let's see. Oh, the build is pending. There it is. There's a little OpenShift logo. Shifting the bits. Shifting the enterprise. Okay. Here's the new pod coming up. It'll be created before the old one goes away. Guess we can watch it right here. This is our fourth build as we've added things to this. Okay. We're down to our one container, that one pod that we wanted. Now we can see the kind of metrics we're gathering with this call. So here are all the goodies we're getting out of there. There's some work being done here. So some good metrics. Okay. And now we'll configure the Prometheus app config map. So from the monitoring view, we'll add a YAML file that configures Prometheus to look at the right ports with a scraping interval and timeout and configurations. Monitoring topology view. In this case, we're not going to the top because we're building the YAML file right in this namespace. Well, even though it does say namespace user 3 monitoring, I guess we're showing you can do it in more than one place. Okay. So we've applied a config map. It looks like it's working fine. Doesn't need to do too much to use these variables. Now we need to mount the config map. Okay, so that defines all our variables, including environment variables and what we need for connections. And this will cause a rebuild here when we attach that config map to that deployment, to the Prometheus deployment. And now you can see Prometheus is redeploying here. Now here's where we'll give it that 10 minutes of data. I'm going to do a for loop 600 times and have a 1 second interval. There she goes. And now we're going to look for performed. That's a typo there. It's not performed, it's performed checks. So we'll do that in the Prometheus UI. I don't have Prometheus UI going here, so I'm going to fix that by just going to topology and clicking on the Prometheus endpoint. Okay, it doesn't show performed apps, and my experience tells me to refresh, to reload that. There we go. So which one do I want? That's a good question. All total, okay. Execute that. And then I want to select the graph. And here it is. We can see that we've been collecting the information since a while ago. If I reduce the time span, you'll see better what's happening. So here's a cumulative total. Some variance in the step sizes here. And you can play with different times and see how that works. Now we're going to do a Grafana dashboard here. We'll create our first dashboard and add a query, and we'll look for perform checks all total there. So go back to here, create my first dashboard, add a new table, and a dark theme here. That comes up. And press enter while we're in the field, and a value should show up. Okay, and it suggests that we reduce the time frame here so we see the effects. There you go. There's the same data in the Grafana. And we can save the dashboard as a cool store dashboard. And let's make another panel. Let's do this cool show how much memory Java's using. Okay, so save. Cool store dashboard. And then you can change the title. I'm not going to tread in there, but I'm going to add a panel. I'm going to do that optional exercise. Add new panel. And it suggests that this is a good memory here, or memory process property. Let's see. Gauge. Okay. So we're going to say that the visualization here is going to be a gauge, and display. Okay. And units. Bytes, IEC. Okay, and that gives us some reasonable bytes. Okay, and there's our memory. So now we got a dashboard with how much memory we're using, and then what's going on in terms of these call statistics. And that, friends, is the end of the exercises here. There is an extra credit spring boot exercise you're welcome to do. And thank you very much.